Hi everyone. So this is the first in a tutorial series about Unity, and I'm just going to briefly go over the various parts of a Unity project. So I'm going to first go to my applications folder and then go to my Unity folder and then open up Unity. Unity can be downloaded directly from the Unity website. And what I'm going to do is open up the standard example project. If you're opening up Unity for the first time, it's going to ask you for a username and password, and this is to set up the free license through Unity. I'll assume that you've done that already, and I'll basically be just walking through the standard assets that you can download from the Unity package when you first download it. And this is just to get you acquainted with the basic windows and layouts of Unity. So I'm looking at a project right now where this is probably the most common window layout that we have. When we go, if you don't see this, the easiest way to sort of get to this layout is to go up to the window menu, choose layouts, and then we want to choose the default layout here. And then it will bring up the default layout, and that means that you see the hierarchy over here, the inspector over here, your scene in the middle, and your assets down here. And we'll kind of go through things one at a time, each one of those windows. A lot of these windows, each of these frames that we have, including the inspector, the project window, and the hierarchy, they have tabs. So in this one, we have multiple tabs, project and console. And we can actually pick these up and then drag them to other places around the window. So I could have my console window up here if I wanted to, or I could pull that and bring it down here. There are some other windows too. You can find all the windows in the window menu itself. We're just going to deal with just an overview of what we're seeing on the screen and the project itself. So I'm going to pull up the project here, and what we're seeing basically is in the scene, this is our game scene, and I can move around the game scene uh, like so. Actually, I'm in a 2D game right now, so I can zoom out like so. And I'll get you guys more into the controls in the next series of videos. It's really helpful to have a 3-button mouse instead of a trackpad. It's actually really difficult to navigate around in a scene in Unity with a trackpad. So it's useful, get a cheap 3-button mouse that will simplify your life tremendously. Let's just look at what's in the scene itself. So I'm looking at the game here, and in the scene, and then I can select different objects. And when I select an object, it will highlight that object in my hierarchy. The hierarchy is a list of all the assets in my current scene. So a scene is kind of like a game level, and we can see in the scene that we have a character here, right here, and we have basically a level, and in that level we have kind of a 2D side scroller in a way, and we have a bunch of crates. And when I select different objects with inside of the window here, for instance, I can select this crate, it's going to highlight that over here to show me where it is in the hierarchy, and I can drag things around in the hierarchy and change where they are. So whenever I select an object, whether it's the 2D character, so that's the 2D character, and if I double click on him, it'll bring him to the forefront and sort of zoom in on him. It will also show me all the properties of that character. So if I select a different crate, for instance, and zoom in on a crate, it will also, in the inspector window here on the right hand side, show me what all the properties of that crate. So some things to keep in mind: if I want to change the position, obviously some of these will make sense to you right away. X and Y position. X is sort of the left and right, and I can pick up the X and Y here and move it left to right, and I can move that crate around. The Y axis is up and down. And since I'm in a 2D game right now, when we're looking at it, we're actually, if I use the Z plane, which is sort of front to back, even in a 2D game like this, we'll begin to see the two, it will come forward and back, but we don't really want to adjust those in a 2D game because there's no Z axis front to back. There's just 2D X and Y, left to right, up and down. So we can adjust those. in a 3D game, we also can, it's very important to be able to rotate objects. That's what the next set is. And then if I want to increase the size, I can do that. So if I want to make the x-axis, which is left to right, twice as big, I'll double that and go to 2, and you can see that now my box is twice as large. There are other things in the inspector window that we're not going to get into right now. I just wanted to sort of show when we go to each object and start looking at them, or look at the background or any of the objects in our hierarchy, once we click on them, we're going to see in the inspector window all the properties of that character. Now, let's talk about the project window down here. The project window is basically a mirror of what you see in your Finder. So if I look at this folder, I can actually right click on it and say reveal in Finder, and see how it's called assets. When I reveal that folder in the Finder, I'll see this, and there's my assets folder. And inside my assets folder, it will mirror what's over here. So I have the editor folder, and then sample scenes, and I can open up sample scenes here. And it's a mirror of what I'm seeing directly on my disk itself. And that can be useful. If I drag anything into the assets folder, it will also appear in the assets folder in my Unity project. So let's say, for instance, I pull up a WAV file. So I'm going to just open up a new Finder window. And just to make this a little simpler, I'm going to hide Unity. So I hid Unity. Here's my Unity project folder. And then what I'm going to go and do is go to my to be filed folder. And I know that in here someplace I have, I think, like a logo sound or something. Any WAV file will probably do. And I'm looking for a WAV file. MP4. Maybe it's easier if I just find a WAV file. So I'll do this, name matches WAV, or waveform audio. And I have a bunch of sounds here. And in here I can pick a sound that I want to actually bring into the game itself. So I'm just scrolling down to something that maybe I recognize. There's a lot of different sound files on my disk, as you can sort of see. Open hi-hat. All right. All right, so let's say that's something I want to bring into my game. So what I'll do is copy it into my assets folder, like so. And in my assets folder, you'll now see open hi-hat. When I go over to Unity, it will actually import that, and then here it is, my open hi-hat. You can see when I selected it, it also brought up an inspector for that WAV file directly in here. So I can play it in Unity directly. And I can click on other objects or folders in my scene to get more information about them. So if I go into the scenes folder, I can click on a scene and get information, or even bring up a different scene. Like this scene right now is a 2D side-scrolling adventure with a basic character. And what I'm going to do is go to the car scene instead. I'm going to double-click on that. And it says, do you want to save the scene? Or essentially, that's like the level, the scene itself is the game level. So I'll hit don't save and go to my car level. And then in my car level, I can sort of navigate around, and I probably can find the car easier. I probably can double click on car, and it will bring it up for me so I can see it right here. This is a 2D game, so if I actually take my car and want to rotate it, now I can start to see what that would be like. Now I'm rotating it over the x-axis, and if I wanted to go back to 0, I just type it in and that's 0. Or I can rotate over the y-axis like so, which is the up and down axis is y. So that's why it's rotating around the up and down axis, the y-axis. And z would be front to back. So if I started doing front to back, it's rotating over its z-axis in space. The other tab that I didn't mention, two tabs I didn't mention. One is the console tab, this one. And in the console tab, this is where various messages will come up, especially errors that I have. I usually like to keep it up and next to my project window. It's the default layout, and you can move it around if you want to do that. In this project, we're not putting up anything here, but in later projects, we'll start to really develop. we'll need to look at the console window to see what's going on in the scene. And then over here in this, we also have two tabs up here. One is the scene and one is the game. The scene is where I can edit the position of the car, for instance. The game is a view of where the camera is in the game. The camera itself is an object that is placed in the game that basically gives us a point of reference or point of view. And so we can't actually pick anything up in the game view, but we can see what the camera is currently looking at in the game. You can think of it sort of like a film set, and the camera represents your point of view in the scene. So if I go back to the scene itself, this is where I can edit it, and then the camera itself, and you can see up here in the hierarchy there's a camera, and the camera is kind of over here and it's facing this direction. So if I zoom in on the camera, it shows me where the camera is and its perspective on the world. And then I can sort of go into the world if I want to, like this, and sort of move around the world and start examining the perspectives of the world itself and going up and down. And we'll get into how to do that in the next video. All right, that's it for this tutorial, and good luck.